Lowa Ranger, Lowa Tibet, Lowa High Country. What's the difference? What's the go? They all look very similar. I'm going to give you a really quick run through on each boot and which one you probably should look at. So I'm going to start with what's similar about these boots. All three are handmade in Germany. All three have a Gore-Tex lining. All three have Nubuck Leather. So Lowa prides itself on making really top-notch boots. All the details, all the stitching is top-notch, so really well made. You're buying a quality boot. Now the Gore-Tex lining, each one of these has got a Gore-Tex lining, which means it is fully waterproof up to here. Now, even if the leather fully wets out, no water should penetrate the boot because the lining is still intact. So that gives you sort of guaranteed waterproofness all the way through. I mean, if you were to drill a hole in the boot with a power drill and puncture the lining, then it'd leak. But other than that, it should be right for the lifetime of the boot. Nubuck leather, okay. Nubuck is a full grain leather that's been roughed up or sanded a little bit. Now the advantage of that, so minor scratches, minor abrasions, don't show up like they do on a smooth full grain leather, where you end up with like a big scratch across the boot from a rock. So if you're in rocky bush, sticks, everything, you're expecting to use your boot, then a Nubuck leather is a really good option because the boot keeps looking better for longer. The other thing that's shared across all three models is the X-lace system. Now, that's a little riser on the tongue, and what it means is the lace loops around that section on the tongue and holds the tongue in place, so it stops the tongue from creeping to left or right as you walk. It means that as you go downhill, you've always got the full support of the tongue, because the padding in the tongue is actually the thing that stops you from sliding forward and jamming your toes on the end of the boot as you go down a steep hill. So it's really important that the tongue gets held in the right place and gives you that support as you're descending. Now I'm going to talk about some differences. The High Country and the Tibet are both very similar boots, so we'll split the difference on these in a minute. The Ranger, however, it's a little bit less stiff, so it's got a 5mm to 3mm shank that runs through it, so you get a little bit more flex. The rubber rand isn't quite as high, and this is a boot that you're going to use for lower angle terrain. It can take some abuse and you can head into some rough terrain, but it's a boot that's a little bit easier to deal with on a daily basis. So if you're jumping in and out of the car, easier to drive, you get a little bit more feel. Doesn't feel like you've got a mountaineering pair of boots on. It's also a little bit lighter, so again, it's a little bit easier to live with on a daily basis. Now the Tibet and the High Country both share a 5mm shank. So they're a bit stiffer than what the Ranger is. So that's one of the key differences. They also both feature this lace lock system that it means that you can have the bottom or the top of the boot tighter or looser, and it doesn't interfere with the other section. So it's a really nice touch. And as you unlace the boot and flip it to the side, then you're able to loosen off all the laces. Both feature higher rands, which is this rubber that runs around the toe and around the side of the boot. It's a lot more aggressive than what it is on the Ranger, and the High Country, it's even higher. So it gives it more protection. So if you're in terrain that's a lot rockier, you've got more exposed roots, you're pushing through scrub and bush, then the High Country will give you a little bit more protection. Basically, you're looking at almost identical boots apart from the higher rand and the way that the lace structure is across the top of the boot. So on the High Country, the laces go a little bit lower down in amongst the toe area, and the way that they've done the leather at the top is slightly different. I think this is going to give you a little bit more flex and a little bit tighter lace system overall than what the Tibet will give you. So these will probably run a little bit looser on the top over time. Just in my experience with other types of boots with a similar system. The Tibet we've had here and sold in store for many, many years. Got a lot of customers that have had really good experience with these, so I don't have any hesitation recommending either boot. In actual fact, I don't have any hesitation recommending all three because they're great boots. So if you're in lower angle terrain and you want a boot that you're going to live with every day, effectively your daily driver, have a look at the Lowa Ranger. Because if you're wanting a boot that's really like your modified four-wheel drive. You want something that's going to handle all the rough conditions. You're going to be able to carry a heavy load. You don't know what you're going to encounter. Then you need to have a serious look at either the Lowa Tibet or the Lowa High Country.